Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Skirbo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. Today, we're going to do the Astrology and Kabbalah of April 2023. We're going to look at the Tree of Life. We're going to look at the associated paths on the Tree of Life getting activated, the chakras getting activated, and we're going to go over the first 8 days from the 1st to the 8th. Astrologically, there's quite a bit happening. So let's get started. Why don't we? Okay, so we're going to start with the numbers for April. Okay, here we go. So each month I talk about the universal vibration, the universal year vibration, because each month this energy continues to express itself because it is the vibration of the year, and with the nuance of the month coming and then the combination of the month and the universal year. So of course 2023, as I said in my January, February, and March, Kabbalah is 7. 7 is the most spiritual of all numbers. It is the seeker of truth and is mental, analytically focused, contemplative, and meditative. It is the accumulator of knowledge and wisdom and the intellectual and abstract. It is an intellectual and abstract thinker. I actually got this from Hans de Kuhn's book, Numerology, The Key to Your Inner Self. Very, very good book on numerology. Each month I try to take it from a different book in numerology. It's just to get a different sort of perspective on things. Now we look at the monthly vibration. Of course, April is the 4th month, and we look at the number 4, because the monthly vibration of April is 4, the most practical of numbers, with a sharp eye for details. It is orderly, systematic, methodical, and precise. It is reliable, punctual, and dependable. It is honest, trustworthy, and totally without artifice. Again, Hans de Kuhn. And of course, we see that this 4 vibration is associated with the Emperor card in the tarot. The Emperor path is the path of clairvoyance. So we may start seeing things. We may start visually seeing our psychic ability comes through clairvoyance. Even if you're not particularly clairvoyant, you still may see pictures in your head. So pay attention to that when they come up, because they won't just come up. They come up maybe when you least expect it, when you're doing something else, when your mind is on something and your mental mind isn't in the way of that intuitive sense, and it sort of comes in that way. So if we add these 2 vibrations together, the 7 of the universal year and the 4 of the monthly year, we get the 11 vibration. This is the vibration of justice. It says 11 is the most intuitive of all numbers. It represents illumination, a channel to the subconscious, insight without rational thought, a vibration of sensitivity, nervous energy, shyness, and impracticality. 11 is the dreamer. So if you happen to have some 11s in your chart, you know that you're a bit of a dreamer. So let's take a look at the Tree of Life and where these vibrations fall on the Tree of Life, both via the paths on the Tree of Life, which are the paths that connect the Sephirot and the Sephirot themselves. So let's take a look. All right, so let's look at the paths. Actually, let's look at the Sephirots first. So we have the 4, the 7, the 4 and the 7. Now there are only 10 Sephirot, so 11 falls on a path. So we have the 4 vibration, the 4 as in Hesed here. So this is 4. The 4th path is called the arresting or receiving intelligence because it arises like a boundary to receive the emanations of the higher intelligence. Hesed is the place on the Tree of Life where all the generative, created forces coming from Bina, right? We had Kether expressing into Hokmah. Hokmah is the force, the masculine energy, the energy moving out in that respect, masculine being energy moving out, right? Yang force goes across the path of the Empress into Bina. Bina constricts and constrains. Bina creates a space, a containment for the creative force of spirit, and is the womb of the world, is the world soul. Then the lightning path comes past the abyss into Hesed, and Hesed holds like a vessel all of the creation of Bina, and it is a 4, and 4 is a vibration of building. So it's the building blocks of creation that are held in Hesed, and all manner of everything. Okay, so this is a time of great a plethora, a great amount of whatever information, creativity. It's all sort of there in Hesed. Now, if we look at 7 vibration, which is the universal year vibration, where does that fall on the tree of life? Well, that's Netzach. That's Netzach. Okay. Netzach is the 7th path, called the hidden intelligence, because it pours out the brilliant splendor on all intellectual virtues, which are beheld with the eyes of the spirit and the ecstasy of faith. Netzach is the place of emotions and feelings. Those emotions and feelings can come out many ways. It is a place associated with the forces of nature. And so in a 7-year, we are going to see the force of nature in all its glory. Okay, and we've seen that with storms and tornadoes and hurricanes and cyclones and volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. I mean, earth-shaking events, right? All of that energy is nature, right? Nature giving us, shaking us up, so to speak. Netzach is associated with Venus. Venus, of course, is what we value, and the ruler of Taurus and Libra. And we know that Uranus is in Taurus, so we can see a connection with that as well. Now, if we look at the paths, the vibrations of the paths, we have this. We'll start with the 7 because we're in a universal year of 7. This is the path of the chariot, as we saw it in the first picture, right? This connects Bina with Gebura. This is all on the side of the feminine side of the tree, the pillar of severity. This is the pillar of the future. So what's really happening this year for us is we are creating our future. We are creating our future. So we have here the 7 vibration, the chariot, the 18th path. This is the path, that's the number of the path that we're on here. Is the intelligence of the house of influence. In the physical body, we are the act, the actor, and the means of action. The chariot is, this path is the soul coming into incarnation. This path is associated with Cancer. We'll see that in the next slide, I think. And so this is where the soul takes on the chariot of the personality, of the ego, of the physical body, so that the soul can act through physical body. This is part of figuring out our direction. That's why this is a really good year. If you're wondering, what's your next step? What's my part in this great sort of what is my part in this ever evolving and ever sort of opening up of this new consciousness that we have? What is my job in that? What has my soul come to do? And so this path in part is that the question, right? The question gets answered, or the question gets asked, maybe even more important than gets answered, right? All right, we have the 4 vibration. This is the vibration of the month. This is the path of the Emperor, right? We saw the Emperor card here. The Emperor, the 15th path is called the constituting intelligence, which creates all of existence, all of existence. This is a path between Chokmah, the divine father, and the Son, Sonsun, of God, Goddess, all that is. This is the Christ consciousness, this path right here. This is the Aries path. We just had last month a Mercury move into Aries, the Sun move into Aries, a new moon at the 1st degree of Aries, and we're going to have a full moon at the last degree of Aries this month, which happens to be a solar eclipse. So this Aryan energy is very, very strong. We also have Jupiter in Aries and Chiron in Aries and Eris in Aries. There's a lot of this Aries energy asking us to become. It is the energy of becoming. What are we becoming? Okay. What are we creating? Good question. When we add this, the 4 and the 7 together, we get the 11 vibration. The 11 vibration is on a path here. This is the path of justice, the 11, the 22nd path called the faithful intelligence. It is so called because its spiritual virtues are increased and all dwellers on earth are nearly under its shadow. This is cosmic justice, folks. And as we enter here in the United States, as we enter April, we just had an indictment of the former president, President Trump, 45th president of the United States, on state charges. And I don't know at this time what the indictments are, what the charges are. I don't have that information, but it does. And while it's a first step, and in a way a small step, it's also a huge step, because it does show us that no matter how powerful you are, cosmic justice, okay, always evens things out, right? So there's this energy of like finally seeing another possibility that people are held accountable, or somebody or something is held accountable for what has come, right? So that for some is great. For others, they're worried and they quite frankly need to be. All right, let's see here. So this is the tree of life with the planets, where the planets are. So the tree of life is associated, you can associate each Sephiroth with a planet. And what I've done is I've taken the planet and what sign it's in, and I put it into the Sephiroth. So we can see here in Kether, Kether is associated with Neptune. Neptune is in Pisces. Neptune has been in Pisces. I think it's been in Pisces since 2011. We have Chokmah here. Chokmah is the divine masculine associated with the sign of, with the planet Uranus. What is Uranus in? Uranus is in Taurus. We come over here to Bina. Bina is associated with the planet Saturn. Remember, Bina constrains, Saturn constrains. Saturn in a chart brings structure and contains, right? In the body, it rules the spine and the skin, right? So it's the containment, and that's in Pisces. That's interesting because Pisces is about dissolution and Saturn is about structure. So at this time, we are structuring our reality, okay? At the same time, we are testing our dreams. So not every dream is going to be able to be created through this period, but this is a time when, with focused energy and focused intention, we can utilize the energy of our intention to create our reality. This path here, which I haven't marked, is associated with the Magician card, and it's associated with Mercury. So whatever planet, whatever sign Mercury's in, is going to give us an indication of the energy between Neptune and Saturn. Okay, right now, as we start the month, Mercury is in Aries. It is going to move into Taurus and it's going to have a retrograde motion as well towards the end of the month. So we can apply that if we would like. Here we have Jupiter and Hesed. What sign is Jupiter in? It's in Aries. It's in Aries. Over here we have Mars. As the month begins, Mars has finally moved into something besides Gemini. It is now in Cancer. Okay, so we can see these energies. This is mutable energy. This is mutable energy. This is fixed energy, but it's fixed energy in the sign of Uranus, associated with the planet Uranus, which is a breaking apart, right? So that's Uranus. Here, okay, we have a cardinal energy, beginning, initiatory, Cancer, initiatory. So, and this is associated with the throat. Okay, this is your throat chakra right here, and we'll see that in a slide that's coming. So this is initiating starting, initiation here. Here we have the sun here in Tiphereth. I put the significant thing that's happening. We have that new moon at 30 degrees of Aries. Here we have Venus. This is the seventh separate. This is Netzac. Remember, Netzac is activated through, and Netzac is activated all year through the 7 universal year, as well as this path right here, which is activated through the 7 universal year. And we have Neptune start the month in Taurus. And then it moves into Gemini, and that happens relatively. The month in Aries moves into Taurus, where towards the end of the month it goes retrograde. And so we're going to have, I think it's the end of the month. Let me see here. I'll tell you when that happens. Mercury goes retrograde on the 21st of April. This is the separate of the moon, the full moon. We have a full moon at 17 degrees of Libra. We're going to look at that because that occurs within the first week of April. So we're going to look at that closely. This is Malkuth. This is the Earth. The Earth is always opposite the sun in a chart. We don't usually look at the Earth because we're standing on the Earth, but it does have significance. It's sort of like the ground beneath our feet. So when the sun is in Aries, the Earth is in Libra. When the sun is in Taurus, the Earth is in Scorpio. And so we're dealing with Libra and Scorpio on the Earth. Libra and Scorpio are both relationship-oriented signs. And so what do we need to do on Earth? We need to start relating to one another. We need to start making connections with each other, okay? So let's take a look at the chakras being activated this year. So via the paths, that's these paths here that connect to the separates. We have the 7 path here connecting the third eye to the throat. We have the fourth, this path, the path of Aries, right? What is it? The constituting intelligence, I believe it's called. I should know. This connects the third eye to the heart, okay? And we have the 11 vibration, which connects Gebura to Tiphereth. So this is the throat to the heart. So via the paths, we're activating the third eye, which is Anja, to demand, to perceive or command. That's what Anja means. Vishuddha, which is the throat chakra, which is purification. Vishuddha means purification. And Anahata, the heart chakra, meaning unstruck. Anahata means unstruck. It is the sound of creation that doesn't need to strike anything else to be, because it is the sound. It is the sound that emanates through the universe, which when we do our own we're connecting with that sound. Now via the Sephirot, right, we have let's see, we have the 4 vibrations. So we're looking at the throat, Vishuddha, and the 7 vibration here. We have the navel chakra, the solar plexus chakra, called Manipura, which means lustrous gem. Manipura, lustrous gem. It's like a diamond, right? And so when you look at a diamond, you see all the different colors and all the different sparkliness. That is the many, many colors of spirit, the light reflecting out. Okay. And so Manipura is ultimately about us stepping aside and allowing the light of soul to come in, the light of the higher consciousness to come in and utilize your solar plexus as a vehicle for spirit, as a vehicle for spirit. Okay, so let's look at a little astrology here. The week one, we start with Monday the 3rd. Now, of course, there are things happening on the 1st and the 2nd, but there's no major, I'm only looking at the major aspects that are occurring. We have Mercury's ingress into Taurus. Mercury's ingress into Taurus, so Mercury isn't in Aries very long. So now Mercury's into that practical Taurian energy. We also have Mercury make a first quarter square to Pluto. This is occurring at 1 degree of Taurus, Aquarius. Mercury is at 1 degree of Taurus. Pluto is at 1 degree of Aquarius. That's just barely, I think it's like 0010 or 10 minutes or something. Now remember, Pluto just moved into Aquarius, and Pluto is going to move forward very, very, very slowly through April. And on May 1st, it's going to go retrograde, and it's going to go back over all the progress it made in April. So we're gonna see all the things that get initiated, instituted with this Pluto moving through Aquarius. Remember, Pluto moving through Aquarius, it's only going to be there for a little less than 3 months. It's a taste of what's coming in the future. Again, this is a future-oriented year because we're on that side of the tree. So this first quarter square is considered a crisis in action. And what action? What has created that crisis? It's on the seeds planted at the Mercury-Pluto conjunction. That occurred on February 10th of 2023, which happened to vibrate to a 19-1 vibration. That is the Sun card, but the 19-1 is a karmic debt number. And so this is something that we have decided that we've come in to purposely work out. It has to do with previous times of maybe abuses of power, and we've come in to sort of correct that with this vibration. That particular conjunction occurring on the 10th of February occurred at 29 degrees of Capricorn. The Sabian symbol for 29 degrees of Capricorn is a woman reading tea leaves. According to Dane Rudger, it is the ability to see the signature of hidden meaning in every occurrence, drawing one's attention. And we have the keyword clairvoyance. Clairvoyance. Remember I said we're going to start to see stuff. And if we look here, here is Mercury in Taurus. Here is Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto is now here in Aquarius. When Pluto goes back into Capricorn, Pluto is going to be on this path. But as we stand all through April, Pluto is here, connecting Venus to the moon. What's significant about Venus to the moon is Venus and the moon are the two feminine archetypes in astrology, where we're using, say, 10 planets of astrology, not including the asteroids like Ceres and Pallas Athena and Juno. We're not including those. We're just including the 7 classical planets and then the 3 transpersonal planets. And so we're dealing with Venus and the moon. So our feelings and our values, okay, our feelings and our values. And of course, we can see that this connects that full moon energy of Libra, which is Venus ruled. And we have Venus in Taurus for a time, and then it goes into Gemini, which is actually in esoteric astrology and soul-centered astrology. Venus is considered the ruler of Gemini, interestingly enough. So it's all connected, guys. It's all connected. So what I've done here is I've put the two charts, the new moon chart and the square. Now, this is a chart for the US. And so for those of you who are not from the US, thank you for allowing me to do this. It's definitely significant here as the US is going through a Pluto return, a Chiron return, um, considered still the most powerful country in the world. Perhaps that will change. Perhaps we can be, it's not about who's on the top of the heap, but we'll see. We'll see how Pluto in Aquarius goes over the next 20 years. So here we have this, the conjunction, which occurred at 29, right? 28 degrees, 50, what is that, 58 minutes? Interestingly enough, this, okay, Pluto, Mars, Sinai. Okay, yes. So this, the only aspect besides the conjunction between Pluto and Mercury at the time of this conjunction was an inconjunct to Mars. Actually, a sesquiquadrate to Mars. This is very, very powerful, and I believe it's an applying sesquiquadrate. This is this vibration is about a humbling. This is a humbling experience, and certainly we've seen a humbling experience happen to the ex-president as we open up this month. And we can see here, this was the seed that was planted, and this is the square. We see that we have Mercury at 0010 and Pluto at 0010. And we see the square here. And what's happened is it's creating a hammer of Thor to the moon in Virgo, the people. So the two symbols for Mercury at 1 of Taurus, a clear mountain stream. It's really about being your nature, being who you are, what you are, being true to your own nature. That's what this particular symbol means. And then we have Pluto at 1 of Aquarius, an old Adobe mission in California. This is about the things that are built that stand the test of time. And so this is a crisis, and the action is on the part of Mercury. There's a crisis in action. It's on the part of Mercury. Mercury will look for information. Mercury will look for data, right? And here we have the hammer of Thor configuration with the moon at 17 degrees of Virgo. You always go up. If this was 1600, it would be at 16. But because we're dealing with the 08, you sort of go up with the to the next degree when you're using the Sabian symbols. That's what it says in the book anyway. Some people would look at the 16th degree, but I go by what the book says. And the Sabian symbol for that moon in the first house, now this is the US, okay, is a volcanic eruption, the explosive energy of long repressed contents of the subconscious. Powerful, powerful energies being unleashed at this time so that we can move forward, this particular inconjunct that I talked about in the initial conjunction, right? The beginning of the synodic cycle between Pluto and Mercury. Pluto is the soul. Mercury is communication. This is where the soul communicates to us. The soul is asking us to read the tea leaves. The inconjunct to Pluto and Mars is significant because it's part of the synodic cycle between Pluto and Mars. And when you get to these sesquiquadrates, it is a evolutionary crossroads. It's an evolutionary, and not crossroads necessarily, an evolutionary portal of these two energies. That synodic cycle began March 3rd of 2022. Okay, the 3-3 portal back in 2022. It was a long time ago. Mars and Pluto have a 2-year cycle. And you might say, well, it's only gotten to this point in a 2-year cycle. That's because Mars was retrograde. Mars spent the first sort of part of the first quarter square cycle, which is the cycle before we get to this sesquiquadrate, going back and forth, Christ in action, Christ in action, Christ in action, right? As Mars went back and forth, sort of like I almost feel like it was like scraping things, well, a little bit more, like sieving out, like almost like if you're one of those people who goes on the sand with those things that go beep, 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 and then you have to like scoop the sand to see what treasure is underneath. That's kind of the energy that we had with Mars going retrograde, going back over, back over, back over. We have to remember that that was all the January 6th stuff. That was all of that stuff, everything that was happening around September, October, right? All of that was part of that, and now it's sort of like getting screed, so to speak. But the initial conjunction of Mars and Pluto occurred at 28 degrees of Capricorn. Why is that significant? That is the Pluto of the United States. That is the Pluto of the United States. So this is a screening of the sand to see what is in there and what is a treasure and what needs to be chucked, right? Okay. Wednesday, April 5th, which happens to be a 16-7 vibration, that is the Tower card. In the tarot, we have a Mercury waxing sextile to Saturn. This is the opening, the lines of communication, curiosity, information gathering. Mercury is at 4 degrees of Taurus. Saturn is at 4 degrees of Pisces. Okay. We also have on that day the Sun conjunct Aries at 16 degrees of Aries. We'll look at that. And Thursday the 6th, we have the full moon in Libra. On that day, the vibration is the 17-8, which is the star card, So finding your guiding star. The full moon is going to illuminate something. What is the full moon part of? It's part of the lunation cycle that began with that new moon at 1 degree of Aries, right? We had Mercury move into Aries, then we had the Sun move into Aries, then we had the new moon and the 1st degree of Aries, a woman rising from the sea. Keyword emergence. So there's something was planted, something emerges, and we see that in its full glory at the full moon on at 17 degrees of Libra. That's occurring on the 6th of April. If we look over here, let's see, did I put anything here? I don't know if I did. Okay, so Aries, the Sun is in Aries, the moon, oh, I see what I did. So this is in reference to the full moon. We have the Sun here in Aries. The Sun card sits here on the tree of life, Sun in Aries. We look here, this is the Sun on the tree of life. The Sun is in Aries. The moon, which is in this, is here on the tree of life. The moon is associated with the path of the high priestess in Libra. And then, of course, the moon here in Libra. So this is what is getting activated through this new moon. Let's take a look at the Sun conjunct Chiron that occurs on a 16-7 day. The Sun brings illumination. Chiron is the wound. What is the wound in Aries? Well, it's the wound of identity. It's the wound of narcissism, exceptionalism, toxic masculinity. It is the wound of being too aggressive or not aggressive enough. It's the wound of not knowing who you are. It's the wound of somebody telling you what you feel inside is not who you are. It's self. Aries is a I am, right? We have the right to determine who we are. Nobody has to agree with us, but many people take umbrage when we define ourselves in a certain way, because most people who take umbrage fear that part of themselves. So if you say, I'm a boy, I was born a boy and I want to become, but I feel like a girl inside and I want to wear girls' clothes and all of that, whatever that is, whatever you need to do to make you feel like you're in the right place, so to speak. When somebody takes umbrage with that, they're afraid of that within themselves. They're afraid of maybe their feminine side, their sensitive side. Maybe it's not safe for those people to be sensitive because they know if they came out like that, they would get attacked as well. And so it's sort of like attacking before you get attacked kind of thing. This is all the Aries energy, right? Okay, so let's take a look here. Starting the annual Sun Chiron Synod, illuminating the healing and the need for healing. So the thing about Chiron is it's not just about the wound, but it's about the possibility, the doorway to healing the wound through understanding, through Chiron was a great healer and a great teacher. He wasn't just wounded. He ended up having to give up his life. He was immortal. He gave up his immortality to be mortal, and he was put in the sky by his father Zeus. He was a centaur. He was half man and half beast, half horse. And he was the only centaur who was able to rise above his animal nature. That's what made him divine. He was able to, and plus he was like the son of Zeus, when he would go around, just picking off nymphs, as it were. But that's another story for another day. All right. So this occurs at 16 degrees of Aries. So this is the key to the healing. How do we find the healing in this? Interestingly enough, 16 of Aries, nature spirits are seen at work in the light of the sunset. It says attunement to the potency of invisible forces of nature. And this is part of the illumination, right? The Tower card. It says when this Sabian symbol reaches into the consciousness of a man seeking meaning, it should be seen as an invitation to open his mind to the possibilities of approaching life in a holistic, non-rational, intuitive manner. This is about connecting with not necessarily the reasoning, but the instinctual, right? The instinctual, our connection to nature. Remember, 7 is the vibration of the year, and 7 is in Netzach, and Netzach is the forces of nature. We have communication with nature. The native people know that. Weather witches know that. You can change the weather through your consciousness. Okay. In fact, as I was taught by one of my teachers, the weather in an area is consistent with the emotions of the people in that area. And so you'll see a lot of these terrible storms going through places that are struggling, really. I mean, it happens everywhere, but you can see this sort of like struggle that people are going through, and then the weather sort of follows that. The key word here is repotentialization. How do we repotentialize ourselves? By connecting with nature. Remember, Uranus is in Taurus. Uranus is the great awakener. The North Node is in Taurus, the direction of our destiny, getting down to our essential needs, letting go of those complex, complicated, enmeshed, and sometimes quite difficult and certainly difficult relationships that we have with Scorpio, right? The death and the rebirth, the letting go of the ego. Okay. And we can see here that this is the sun here and Chiron. This is, I did an Aries chart for this so we could see it, but we can see we have the sun and Chiron. Here's Jupiter. Jupiter, back in March, I think it was the 11th of March, I could be wrong about that, made a conjunction with Chiron. That's the start of a 14-year cycle, right in the middle of Aries, right? So we have this Aries, and this is a healing of the Aries energy. This is a healing of the wounded warrior, so to speak. And we can look to see where Mars is in this, because Mars is the ruler of Aries, and it's down here at 6 degrees of Cancer. I wonder if I have my Sabian symbol book. Hold on one second. Let me grab that. Oh my goodness. I have the complete. Whoops. Excuse me. My feet seem to get caught whenever I try to turn around in this little space. My feet get caught. Let's see. I haven't looked at this, so let me see what it says. Game birds feathering their nests. The instinctual, let me make sure I'm doing the right degree. Yes. The instinctual dedication of self to new forms of life. There you go. New forms of life. We're creating our future in the moment right now, guys. Important time through realization of our connection to the planet that we're on. So here we have the full moon in Libra. We'll look at the chart in the next slide. But I thought this picture was pretty apt for this. It is an illuminating time. So interestingly enough, the sun is at 17 degrees on this new moon in Aries, of course, and the moon is at 17 degrees of Libra. So these are the symbols associated with it. Now remember, full moons are oppositions. Okay, it's an opposition. So it wants us to have awareness about something. It's not about action, but it's about awareness. So it's two dignified spinsters sitting in silence. The ability to transform a natural lack of potency into poise and inner serenity. And that's in opposition to the moon at 17 degrees of Libra. A retired sea captain watches ships entering and leaving the harbor. The capacity to gain an objective and calm understanding of human experiences in which one was deeply involved. What I find interesting about both of these symbols is that whether you had a full life as a sea captain, or whether you had a rather uneventful life as a dignified spinster, you still have the capacity and the ability and the necessity to look at your situation, your life experiences, and connect with a sense of inner calm and inner serenity, right? So it's important that we stand in our experience. And just because you're a spinster and you're a captain, just because you're a president and you're maybe a lunch lady, it doesn't mean that you can't get to the same places of serenity and understanding through your experience. You can find that poise, that place. Okay, now let's look at the chart. So I do have the new moon here in Aries just to point out how much Aries was going on at that time. Here we have it. It's in 1 degree of Aries. This is the woman emerging from the ocean. What are you calling? Embracing a seal. It's emergence of consciousness. Okay. And here we have the full moon. Now this full moon is conjunct Chiron, right? We just had the Sun Chiron conjunction. The Sun Chiron conjunction happened just before this full moon. Or was it the day before, I think? And then, so Chiron to the Sun is new phase. So now Chiron says, this is how we heal. This is how you need to heal. And the sun goes off and illuminates through the moon. Of course, the moon is subconscious. The sun is consciousness. So we're getting a view of subconscious energies as well here with Chiron. And then we have Jupiter here on the other side. This is very powerful. Then we have Mercury here, just about ready to make a conjunction to the North Node, Mercury in Taurus. Here's Uranus in Taurus still. We have Venus in Taurus. Venus is powerful in Taurus because it rules Taurus, right? We have Mars at 6 degrees again, right? We looked at that. There's Pluto up there, making a trine to Venus. And Pluto, incidentally, is squaring the nodes of the moon, which we can talk about in a separate video. That's a very specific thing we need to talk about. And we have a grand trine with Saturn in Pisces, Mars in Pisces. We just had a Saturn-Mars trine that occurred just before the indictment came out. And that Saturn-Mars trine that we had at the end of March actually began, because we're dealing with Mars, it actually began back in October. That was the first one. But Mars was in Gemini and Saturn was in Aquarius. And then we had another one in November when Mars was retrograde. Saturn was in Aquarius, Mars was in Gemini. And then this last one, again, it's like this energy of screeing the sand, right? And this trine happened in water. So it came like a giant wave. If anybody, and I know many of you watch Cash Peters, he talked about May being this giant wave, right? So there was the wave. That was the wave astrologically. Mars trine Saturn in water. In water. Okay. Anything else I want to say? No. All right. So that is the major stuff happening. Let me just double check and make sure I didn't forget anything. Oh dear. We have 2 more things that we have to look at. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. And then we're going to look at the last 2 things that happen in this first week. Friday, April 7th, 2023, the 18-9 vibration, that is the moon card. We have Venus making a waxing sextile to Neptune. Venus is at 26 degrees of Taurus. Neptune is at 26 degrees of Pisces. This is the opening the lines of communication. Neptune is the divinity. Sextiles are opening lines of communication in our relationship to the divine. Venus, our values. So we have Neptune here making a supportive, communication opening sextile to Venus here. Okay, so we see that connection there. And then on the 8th, we have Mercury make a sextile to Mars. Here's Mercury on the tree of life. Mercury sits here. Mars sits here. There's a sextile. Sextiles are, again, communication, sharing knowledge, right? And interestingly enough, on the tree of life, the path that connects that is the Hanged Man path, okay? With the Hanged Man, we need to stay connected to cosmic consciousness. So this relationship between Mercury, our mind, and Mars, our action, is mediated through our connection to the divine. And we had this Neptune Venus sextile the day before, which gives us an ability to communicate what is most important to us. So a very, very active week, So let me stop this now. All right, guys. So I hope this is helpful for you. I will do next week. I think I'll go week to week. That seems to be working pretty well. I just want to announce that I have a special series that I actually did for my Patreons, and you could only see it if you went on to my Patreon page. And I've been very busy thanks to some suggestions by other YouTubers that I do a good job. And so I haven't been able to put much more on Patreon yet, but I do intend to do that as I continue to put my stuff out there. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. There's only so much time in the day, and I'm still trying to figure out what people really are interested in learning about, and finding ways to make that accessible to you and a little bit more profitable for me, honestly. So, I mean, I don't know if I'd call it profitable, but certainly so I can support myself through this process. I think that's more like it. And it's called The Devil's in the Details, The Making of the Monster That is Trump. And the first one is going to be coming out tomorrow on the 1st of April. You can check that out. It's his relationship to his dad. And it's pretty interesting. And there's, I think, I want to say there's 6 or 7 episodes of that. Maybe 7, maybe 6, maybe more coming. We'll see. So you can enjoy that. Until next week, have yourself a wonderful week. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you would like to donate, you can. There's a link below. If you'd like to become a Patreon, there's a link below. If you'd like a reading with me, there's a link below. All the links are below. And I know that my website isn't the easiest to navigate. So if you have any problems, just reach out to me and I can help you navigate that and maybe figure out how I can make it easier for all of us. All right, guys, I love you. Take care. Check out my morning walk through the garden now that things are starting to bloom and it's not quite as crazy and cold. We'll start to see some flowers come up and we'll be able to see spring, and hope, which springs eternal. Take care, everyone. Namaste. Love you.